I rise today to speak on a matter of public importance submitted by the member of Carrum, who we've just been listening to. And to be honest, I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted because I cannot believe the 4 points that you've highlighted. I actually thought it was a bit of a joke. So I'm going to start off with my shadow portfolio responsibilities around the highlighting that the member has done around the good work the government is claiming to have done incorporating technology into a number of government services to assist with licence testing. I cannot believe she's highlighted licence testing. In March, licence testing was shut down as a result of the pandemic. So here we have tests that were already on computers that were unable to be done. So you currently had to walk into a VicRoads office and do this test. Now, my daughter's in Year 11 doing Year 12 subjects, and she's been doing her assessments online for Victorian state level. I can transfer her money right now on my phone into her bank account. She'll have it in seconds. It's safe and it's being able to be done online. So why did the government take 6 months and an enormous amount of pressure from the Liberal Nationals, my colleagues and myself, to actually react to the fact that in the country particularly, we've got kids who can't get to work, who have, it's not a rite of passage because they want to go and have fun driving, they actually need to get to work. No public transport available to them more than is the case. Parents getting up in the middle of the night, taking kids to jobs and coming back, getting into bed, getting up themselves, going to work, extraordinary circumstances. And the government ignored those pleas from us and did nothing. Until recently, and now they've come out and they're saying, oh, we think we'll do something about this, and by next year we might have online testing available. This is the most ridiculous example of a government not being able to be nimble. Businesses have pivoted, businesses have offered services online, businesses have been innovative, and this is an example of typical Labor government who can't manage a department and get something done quickly. I'll leave it at that and I'll go back to the other matters of public importance because I find them all as extraordinary as that one. So the first one is to celebrate getting kids back to face-to-face learning in Term 4. Term 4. So we here in Victoria are wanting to talk today in the Parliament about how this government has handled the Victorian pandemic. Well, you know, this is a nation and we were all very impressed when we saw our leaders come together at National Cabinet, put politics aside and in time of crisis, show our communities that we can work together. But unfortunately for Victoria, Daniel Andrews did something different each time he came away from that table, just tweaked things his way. And how did that work out? How did that work out? So one of those examples is refusing to take on the Australian Defence Force to manage the hotel quarantine. Now, how smart were we as a nation? Thank you, Prime Minister Scott Morrison, for saying we've got borders, let's close them, let's put people into hotels and we'll stop the quarantine, we'll stop the virus there. Well, guess what? The other states managed it. They had outbreaks in hotel quarantine, but they had processes in place and they managed it because the Australian Defence Force, a very respectable and respected organisation, has processes in place and knows how to follow those procedures. Oh no, our government brings in the bouncers. The bouncers with no training in infection control. Now, I've nursed for 30 odd years, I've said that many times in this place, and you are trained in infection control. It's not natural. You know, it's not natural to think about a surface as contaminated. It's not natural to, it's a trained. And you can put training in place, but these guys didn't have training. They were, sorry, no, I'm wrong. They were trained in diversity. They weren't trained in infection control. Now, people make mistakes, so I'll give the Premier, he's made a mistake. But when you make a mistake, you admit it and you say you're sorry. And this is a man who, instead of saying sorry, he said, well, we'll have an inquiry. Now, that inquiry was an embarrassment to every Victorian. It was worse than an embarrassment, it was an insult actually to every Victorian, because we had minister after minister, public servant after public servant actually, well, I'm not allowed to say the word lie in this place, and so I can't say that the Premier lied and the ministers lied. I can say though that they told nothing but untruths. Untruths, because that's not saying lie. I think that's how I do it.
I think you're using a device, member of South West Coast, to introduce that word. And I warn
not allowed to use the word. Okay, thank you for the clarification, Speaker. So the Victorian people were insulted because, look, we all know people make mistakes, but the arrogance of just ignoring that and not doing something. Now, we've seen our health minister being thrown under a bus. We've seen the head of Department of Premier and Cabinet, the Premier's advisor being thrown under a bus, and rightfully so. But the reality is the Premier stopped democracy. He shut down the Parliament, he got rid of his own cabinet, he got a gang of 8 around him, and he changed things. And how did it work out for him? Look at the rest of the country. The kids were back in school long ago. The years 8s, 9s and 10s in Victoria and Melbourne aren't even back yet. So most of our kids missed most of the year. And they want to be congratulated for getting them back in term 4. I'm sorry, but the kids in South West Coast that actually go to school in South Australia on the border, they couldn't even do that. You know, it was just berserk what was happening. So no, I'm not celebrating that, and I don't think any of the kids at school are very happy that they're not back till now. And when their parents are ringing me, and the kids are even telling me that they can't do their graduation ceremony, and I sat on Zoom on Saturday night watching from afar my own daughter's school doing a graduation ceremony virtually, it was shocking to sit there as a mum. I was texting all the other parents going, can't believe this. What are we doing sitting at home watching this online? This is bizarre. It's not okay. And it's not because I don't respect the fact that we have a virus. Unlike what the member for Carrum tried to claim, I know this is a pandemic, and I also understand what a virus does and looks like. And I also understand bacteria and protozoal infections and fungal infections and the like. Yes, this is a novel virus, which means it's new and emerging. It doesn't mean it's changing wildly. It means we've just got to put some things in place, and we've done that. And we need to continue to do that. And we did that really well in Australia, but we did it badly in Victoria. And Daniel Andrews is terrified. He's terrified of the fact that he's caused these deaths and he's got to make it stop. So that's why he's after an elimination process, not a flatten the curve. Now let's stop there for a sec, flatten the curve. So as I say, I respect the fact that we've got a virus, and I never wanted to be a nurse in this environment having to choose a ventilator for Danny or for James, both healthy young men. I never wanted to be, as the nurse, the one that had to make that decision between two of them.
I just wanted to remind the member, I know that the member's trying to make a point, but to refer to all members on either side of the House.
Oh, sorry.
By their correct titles.
The member for, where are you from? Gippsland South, and the member for Brighton, yes. I never wanted to be in a position to do that. Both young, healthy men, that's right. But, so, Richard, you're closer to my age. So hang on, seriously, I want to talk about the fact that we had to, as a state and as a nation, get enough ventilators in place, because we did know this was a respiratory condition that compromised the respiratory state pretty quickly. So in Warrnambool, we had 4 ventilators. Pretty much. You could take them out of theatre and you could do a few things, but we basically had 4 ventilators. We've now got 18. Now, in the whole of Victoria, I don't think even today, yesterday certainly didn't have a person in the whole state on a ventilator. We've upped our capacity to 7,000 ventilators, and we're ready because the curve is flattened. We are not using that capacity. You know, we can work with this virus. So the fact that we're not opening up is because they stuffed up hotel quarantine, but the best is yet to come, because, as I keep saying, mistakes get made, say you're sorry, move on. But contact tracing, you know what? We've actually been contact tracing for a long time. Tuberculosis was a disease that we always recorded and traced and made sure it remained contained. We've been doing that for a very long time. Sexually transmitted diseases, or STIs as they're now called, not STDs anymore. We've been reporting them. We've been making sure they don't get wildly out of control. We had a syphilis outbreak in Darwin about 2 or 3 years ago where, these things happen. So this is not new. So how come Victoria couldn't manage contact tracing? How come they couldn't manage contact tracing? I can't understand how a minister, even if you don't have any health knowledge too much, cannot know what her department was doing. And 7 months into this disease, we're still hearing about people who have had the disease and not contacted for 10 and 12 and 14 days. Well, you know what? In South West Coast, we've had 4 outbreaks. And guess what? We contact traced. We got the local health service and the local businesses and local communities just naturally came together and dealt with it. Colac have done the same, and I will be very surprised if Shepparton don't do it well as well. If they have the department working with them, not coming down with a top-down approach, but actually working with the communities, you will see a good result. And that's what we need to do. We can't keep this place locked down because we've proven we can work with the virus now. We've flattened the curve, we've got the ventilator capacity, we can socially distance. Businesses are screaming. So that's, this government had in this matter of public importance unprecedented help for business. Well, open up your computers, guys, read your emails, go visit your constituents, the business communities who employ people who you say you care about, the workers, the families, the young people. They are on their knees. Businesses are being victimised, they are being crucified, and they're saying, look, we've been working in a litigation environment for a very long time. We care about our customers, we care about our workers, we care about our clients. Back in the day, maybe workers weren't treated as well as they should have been, and industrial laws have changed and come in, but nowadays we have a symbiotic relationship with our workers. That's certainly how our business focused. Without our staff, we couldn't do the business, and I've never spoken to a business in my 5 years in this role that doesn't think like that. So here we have businesses being victimised because they're being shut down. Well, hello, those 40% of our community are actually bringing in the taxes that pay the public servants' wages, pay the nurses, pay the doctors, pay the teachers, pay the public servants. And is it just something that you're missing, that you can't see the equation here, that if you keep them locked down and they go broke, there's no income for the state? Can you not see that? I just struggle. I really struggle to understand how there's not an understanding that business isn't the enemy, business is the saviour. And they care about people and they want their workers back working. They have COVID plans. They've been doing it for years. You took anyone from the meat industry, for example. They're not harvesting the disease in there. They actually know how to manage disease. They've been working with bacterias and the like forever. Many of them employ microbiologists and Pseudomonas, E. coli, lots of different types of bacterias and viruses they actually work with every day. So they know how to do this, and we've all learned. But it's not right to keep them locked down. It's not right. What we need to do, open up business, test, support families to stay home if they're sick, support workers to stay home if they're sick, shut down, put rings around areas like Shepparton, wait till you've actually, you need to contact trace, you need to watch your own individual areas' capability in your health infrastructure, how many ventilators you got, what your staff capability is, and then put rings around things. You might have to shut a hairdresser down, just like we saw in Port Fairy. We had a guy test positive in the quarry, his wife shut the business down, she contact traced everyone. We only had a few people. We didn't have a cluster, better not say that word, we didn't have a cluster outbreak. We had a very managed cluster. That's what we had. We had a managed cluster, and we had that 4 times in Colac. You've done the same thing, member for Polwarth, so we know we can do this. And now I'll talk about, one more thing. The World Health Organisation recognises what I'm saying. They're saying you only use lockdown to get control. We're back in control, guys. Open up business, open up. And lock down when you need to in little areas and control it, contact trace well. But the World Health Organisation says you are making people poorer by doing what you're doing. Listen to them if you listen to nobody else. The last thing I wanted to finish on is the mental health challenge we've got in front of us. Now, mental health is a word that gets thrown around too much. What it means is we're breaking people's spirit. It's really hard for people to get out of bed. If you've run a business, which I have, I think our overdraft was, something like 250,000. It's big money sometimes, and it doesn't mean you're rolling in it. Quite the opposite. I remember reading an article about a gentleman who said he had his income of $15,000 per week, and now he's on JobKeeper. Well, I'll guarantee you, his $15,000 would have had $14,500 worth of costs coming out of it. So these people are under enormous pressure. They haven't got a disease where they're going to crumble. They've got responsibilities, the people who work for them, the kids. I used to think, gosh, if I lost a worker, I'd lose a teacher at the school because we wouldn't have enough kids to be able to have the teacher ratio we needed. That's the level of support you give your community when you're in business. So I'm sorry, I'm really disappointed in the Labor government. Open up safely, responsibly, we're there now, and don't accuse us of saying no restrictions, because that's not what we've said.